Hello and welcome to tonight's news. These are the headlines. The African Export-Import Bank praised Algeria for building a strong financial model free from the influence of international financial institutions, praising its firm sovereignty over economic policy making and decision-making process. The chairman of the African Union Commission expressed confidence in Algeria's steadfast commitment to the African Union and its central role in driving the continent's strategic goals. In its latest editorial, the Jaish magazine underscores Algeria's capacity to meet both internal and external challenges, emphasizing the strength of its defense system and deep-rooted sense of patriotism and loyalty among its citizens. In another escalation, the Zionist forces launched a deadly assault on civilians waiting desperately for humanitarian aid in Gaza. This latest massacre adds to the growing toll of the clear and systematic campaign of genocide. Welcome back, everyone, to tonight's news, where we begin it with national news. Amid growing economic challenges across the continent, Algeria has drawn attention for its efforts to strengthen financial independence and reduce reliance on external debt. A recent report from the African Export-Import Bank sheds light on this development. Najdir.
Algeria has emerged as a rare example in Africa of a nation that has broken free from international financial dependency. Unlike many other countries still struggling under the weight of foreign debt, Algeria has fortified its economy against external pressures. A recent report by the African Export-Import Bank highlights that Algeria ranks among the least exposed countries on the continent to debt risks. And this is due to a deliberate and strategic choice by the state to clear its external debts, demonstrating a firm commitment to preserving economic sovereignty and resisting all forms of foreign control.
Algeria is one of the largest economies in Africa, with GDP of over $250 billion. So when you're looking at investment, scale matters. So it's one of the largest countries by land mass. It also has a lot of resources, significant energy resources, significant wind resources, significant solar resources, significant mineral resources, phosphate, a lot of resources, and of course, a young growing population as well, stable exchange rate regime, low inflation, and some fiscal buffers to facilitate investment. And then it has built, strong institutions like Sonatrach.
The financial strength of Algeria is reflected in its rise in foreign exchange reserves, which surpassed $80 billion by the end of 2024. And according to the same report, this figure confirms the country's ability to finance major national projects independently without relying on foreign markets or waiting for international guidance. It's a clear sign that Algeria's financial position is solid and stable and that it continues to move forward on its own terms.
Algeria right now doesn't have debt issues. It has cleared all debt challenges, and so it's debt free. Algeria is it's a country for the future, and so investments in Algeria is the right thing to do.
Instead of accepting conditional loans that often limit national decision making, Algeria has prioritized self-financing as a path to economic independence. The country has focused on long-term development by investing heavily in infrastructure, strengthening food security, and launching key structural reforms. These efforts have helped it maintain a stable and self-directed economic policy, setting it apart from many developing economies that remain bound by external funding conditions.
And as part of efforts to expand energy investment opportunities, Minister of State for Energy, Mines and Renewable Energies outlined the main pillars of Algeria's development program in these sectors, and this during a meeting with the CEO of the Africa Finance Corporation. The two sides discussed ways for the Africa Finance Corporation to support energy and mining projects in Algeria, as well as available investment opportunities and the strengthening of partnerships with a particular focus on major projects such as those in petrochemicals, renewable energies and regional and continental power interaction. And the chairperson of the Africa Union Commission received on Tuesday the letters of credence from Algeria's ambassador to the Republic of Ethiopia and permanent representative to the African Union, Mohamed Khalid. On this occasion, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf commended Algeria's unwavering commitment to the African Union and its key role in advancing the continent's priorities. The African Union Commission chair also reaffirmed his readiness to work closely with Algeria to boost bilateral cooperation, while stressing the need to accelerate the implementation of Agenda 2063 for Africa's prosperity and integration. Now, the news Al-Jaish magazine for the month of June recalls Algeria's ability to meet all challenges thanks to the effectiveness of its defense system and its sincere patriots with its values of belonging to the homeland. Entitled High Level of Professionalism Shaped by the Values of Self-Sacrifice, the editorial also highlights the central role of our active diplomacy and tireless efforts. Wanya Al-Bahri.
In its editorial entitled High Level of Professionalism Shaped by the Values of Self-Denial, Al-Jaish magazine looks back at Algeria's efforts to develop and strengthen its defensive capabilities and build a strong and feared army. An army that has achieved in recent years accomplishments that were praised by President Abdelmajid Tebboune, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, during his supervision of the military parade that was held in November 2024 on the occasion of the commemorative festivities marking the 70th anniversary of the outbreak of the Algerian Revolution. These achievements were made possible thanks to the vision of the AMP High Command, particularly in terms of training, the acquisition of the latest equipment and weapons, as well as the mastery of cutting-edge technologies, and of course demonstration and tactical exercises which enable the AMP armed forces to be ready and operational in all circumstances, such as the most recent tactical exercises, El Hasn al-Mani' 2025 and Sumut 2025, conducted respectively in the 3rd and the 2nd military regions with live ammunition and under the supervision of the Army General Said Shangriha, Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the IMP. The success of these exercises reflects the high level of operational readiness of the IMP, which ensures the defense of the homeland, its unity and the preservation of its sovereignty, in order to raise high the eternal banner of Algeria and defend its republican order, as General Said Shangriha emphasized. At the same time, Algeria is deploying active diplomacy aimed at ensuring the stability of its neighborhood, which is plagued by recurring unrest. This diplomacy is based on immutable principles: non-interference, respect for the sovereignty of each country, and the peaceful resolution of conflicts. Furthermore, Al-Jaish editorial highlights Algeria's firm commitment to combat terrorism and cross-border crime as part of a comprehensive approach that includes the economic dimension through the financing of regional development projects. Al-Jaish editorial concludes with a statement of Army General Said Shangriha, who affirmed that Algeria will continue to progress economically and race strategically while its enemies drag the taters of their failures and suffer the consequences of their plots.
The first group of Algerian pilgrims returned home on Tuesday after performing the Hajj rites in good conditions, thanks to the support provided by the Algerian mission. And this successful organization earned Algeria the Labaitum Gold Award for the 2nd consecutive year, an honor granted to institutions that excel in serving pilgrims. It is worth mentioning that this first group had departed for the Holy Sites on May 10th. In the Gaza Strip, and in horrific crime, the Zionist occupation targeted crowds of Palestinians while they were waiting for aid trucks. Dozens were killed and many injured in a brutal act of genocide. Rial Bahri explains.
The tears haven't dried and the voices of grieving families in Gaza are still being heard. Dozens of people killed or injured are still being brought to hospitals one after another just because they tried to reach what is called the aid distribution centers. But instead of food, the occupation forces gave them bullets and bombs.
They went and stood on a hill, they were shot and he died. We went to get aid so we could eat.
The road to get aid has become a road to death, but staying in the tents is not an option either. Before they left, these families lived in broken, worn-out tents in very bad conditions. Even a loaf of bread has become a dream. The injured people from the aid centers are still looking for treatment. They threw a shell at my face, and still they say, we aren't targeting the Palestinians. In the tents, people are suffering in silence, dying slowly without help. A displaced woman from the north struggles to find shelter for her young grandchildren, all of whom are orphaned children of martyrs. We were displaced from Beit Lahia. We came yesterday to look for tents, and now we are sleeping by the sea. These are my grandchildren, children of martyrs who have no one to support them. Death is everywhere around the Palestinian people. Some are killed by bombs or snipers when they try to reach the aid centers. Others die slowly from hunger, thirst, pain, and lack of clean water inside broken tents in the displacement camps.
And the UN Special Committee on Decolonization has opened its 2025 substantive session and is set to examine the question of Western Sahara, still under Moroccan occupation. On its first day, the committee focused largely on the situation in 14 of the 17 non-self-governing territories amid calls for tangible progress and the decolonization process. Earlier this session, the committee adopted without a vote 3 annual draft resolutions on decolonization, along with another draft resolution supporting the dispatch of visiting and special missions to these territories. It also urged powers to cooperate within the UN to facilitate such missions in areas under their control. And the Polisario Front has once again asserted that any attempt to undermine the rights of the Sahrawi people is destined to fail, stressing that the question of Western Sahara as a decolonization issue cannot be resolved without the exercise of the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination and independence. In a statement issued following a meeting of the Permanent Bureau of the National Secretariat, chaired by Sahrawi President Brahim Ghali, the Polisario Front warned of the consequences of Moroccan maneuvers which aim to obstruct the establishment of peace in Western Sahara based on full respect for international legality and the principles of international law. Morocco always has now topped the list of Africa's most debt-laden countries, according to a recent report by the African Export-Import Bank, which highlights alarming figures, deficit and corruption, raising serious concerns over economic mismanagement. Najah Tayyar.
Morocco has fallen into the high-risk category, with foreign debt now exceeding $45 billion. About 6% of all the external debt across Africa. These worrying figures point to the regime's deepening involvement in both domestic and international borrowing. According to the African Export-Import Bank report, Morocco's public debt is expected to rise above 50% of its gross domestic product by the end of the year, following a rate of 49% in 2022. This growing debt trend threatens to further deteriorate the already difficult living conditions for many Moroccan citizens. And the situation has sparked a growing question: how can such overwhelming debt be justified in a country where the ruling elite enjoy wealth and comfort, while the public bears the brunt of economic hardship? State resources are being funneled into questionable areas: lavish gifts, foreign lobbying over the Western Sahara, and deals with a Zionist entity. Meanwhile, the regime remains unable to guarantee its people the most basic standard of living or economic dignity.
That was it for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.